Many good folks here.
Ooh, you want to go with Chris in California?
Okay.
Okay, let's go with Chris. Hi. You there?
Oh, yeah. Hi, V. Hi, Eric. Good to meet you.
You as well.
You as well. How are you doing, and what can we help you with?
I'm surprised you took me so quick. Hey, I was getting my coffee. I come back to a note here. Yeah, hi.
Hi.
And there you are 7 seconds ago or something like that.
We're still here.
Yep, we're good to go. So
We
it
are
says
all ears.
It says that you're saying that paranormal experiences might be real.
Yeah. I thought I'd start with a little precursor, just because I called in a few times before. I talked to you via a little bit with Eric, I think it was, or no.
Nope, you didn't talk to me.
No, the Mr. Head Kid Eric.
Mr.
as
Murphy.
I might call him.
Yep.
I'm not a kid.
That curly-haired dude with glasses.
The guy with the good hair. Not that you don't have.
I've got great hair.
You've got a good beard. All right. So.
Nowhere near as gray as mine, but anyway, the.
Oh, get out of the way. You guys are going to go at it.
But anyway, you guys provide a great service for people that are Christians that are thinking more, and those who just converted, and you're that too, and that's great. And
thank you.
Whatever, yeah, whatever. But however, I don't want to say. Anyway, I'm agnostic.
Okay.
And it's. Sometimes, yeah, I feel maybe left out, but maybe not that, but sort of as if when I call in to state my perspective, I get arguments about how, well, why do you believe that? And I don't really believe it. I don't really believe hardly anything, or whatever. Yeah, get into those explanations, but. So that's one thing that maybe we can get into in a little bit. But let me go with the thing. Start with what you were sort of topical here, where you were talking about praying, I believe.
Yeah.
And the gentleman was talking about how he's an atheist and he still prays, and you said, well, that's okay as long as you don't think something magical is happening or something like that, or.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about an overall umbrella statement would be there should be no problem thinking that paranormal experiences might be real or happening.
Okay. So
that's the statement.
That's the statement.
And what do you have to back that up? A story? Or
well, I'm assuming it stems from your agnosticism, right?
That's an opinion. That's an opinion.
I see.
So
I mean, people.
Well, I mean, that's an extraordinary claim.
Might be real.
That's an extraordinary claim, right? To say that the paranormal is real.
I mean, there's many paranormal things like deja vu, supposedly.
Wait, deja vu is paranormal?
How else is it happening? I don't know. A feeling that you're
hiccup in the brain.
Well,
if
maybe
your brain processes
whatever might be happening. I mean, maybe it's the word paranormal that throws people off. I don't know.
All right, let's start with that.
But just considering that something like that might be happening.
Okay, Chris, what's your definition of paranormal, and then we can go from there. Because if we're using this word and you're like, well, maybe it means this or something else.
Paranormal is something that might be happening on what you might call the spiritual realm, or something you can't see actually happening, but we think it's happening. And so, for instance, a prayer and something being answered, your prayer being answered by a higher power. That's paranormal.
So my concern with that definition is that if we can't see that it's happening and can't measure it and predict it, then we can't know if it exists at all. And if we can see and measure and predict it, then it stops being paranormal and just becomes part of what we understand to be part of nature, right?
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a problem to me. I mean, that's a good description.
Okay, so the paranormal is natural stuff that we haven't figured out yet? I can get behind that. I don't know why we call it the paranormal.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but more than likely, actually. Now thinking about it, thinking it through here, that would make sense because it may be happening on an invisible realm, and all these things could be true. Everything they talk about in all these crazy religions. Who knows?
Not all of them could be true, because
true.
that would violate the law of non-contradiction several million times.
You would exclude some of them? Just for which ones and why?
We'd
have to determine which ones directly contradicted each other, and then determine which one was correct. Because
well, I would guess there's tenets in all of them that are similar, and yeah, some stuff that's whack, and who knows?
So how would you determine between the stuff that is actually happening on an invisible plane and which stuff is whack?
If you don't have any way to prove it, then you don't. There's no way to prove it. If man devises a way to measure the spirituality of things, and maybe some actual communication to a God is happening via prayer, and I measured that communication. I saw it. We recorded it. And here it is. It went through this media, whatever, did something like that. Then maybe you could prove it. But I don't think we're doing that now. Unless the deep state is
we
involved.
Certainly aren't, at least not on any scale that I'm aware of. I would. all these calls are kind of blending into each other, because now I want to jump back to Gabriel and say, well, God's either imaginary or not imaginary.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah.
What's the next subject here? We beat that one to death here.
I feel like my concern here, though, is you keep premising this idea of a spiritual realm or an invisible realm as a reason to believe in the paranormal, as though we've proven the invisible realm. But you can't use something that isn't proven to prove something that also isn't proven.
Well, let's get one thing straight right away, B. I'm not trying to prove anything.
Okay.
It almost sounds like you're kind of going down a logical, well, I wouldn't say logical, a rabbit hole in a sense, where I could say there's a dragon on your back, and you could say, well, I can't see it. Well, then it's invisible. Well, I don't feel it. Well, it's weightless. Okay, well, it breathes fire that doesn't have any temperature or something. You keep kind of moving the goalposts into an area where it just becomes ridiculous and not even testable. And when we don't have testable hypotheses, I mean, it's kind of cool to think about them, but we live in a reality in which we work to test and discover things. And if we can't test it, then why would we think it's even real?
Right. I think we all agree.
I don't think I stated, I'm sorry, excuse me, but I don't think I stated anything is real. I mean,
well, you said it might be. So you're being
it might
coy.
Might be. Yeah, who knows? Anything might be real.
Okay, so are you
hell with the real burning and people in their horrid clothing might be real.
Are you a hard solipsist?
What's that?
Are you a hard solipsist, or is your agnosticism to the point that you don't believe that you can verify whether or not you're a brain in a vat, basically?
I cannot verify that. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand all that word.
I'm curious to know how far you're taking this agnosticism, because I'm assuming that all of this conversation is based on the idea that we can't know anything for sure, and so the supernatural might be real, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to know if we can agree on a baseline reality, or if you're just going to keep bouncing it back to, well, maybe reality isn't real.
Based on reality, I believe, and I absolutely believe in physical reality. I've experienced it all my life, and it's real. Okay, good.
So we believe in reality.
And I believe a lot of the history, the well-documented stuff that makes sense, definitely. Anyway, yeah.
Perfect. That's good. Good baseline. I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, so no problem. Mm-hmm.
So I'm also an agnostic. I know that there are things I don't know, and then I know there are things I don't know that I don't know, right? Like the slice of everything that we know is infinitesimal in comparison with everything that we don't know yet. My only thing, though, is that the reason we have to call out belief in the paranormal or belief in gods is because up until this point, the best way that we've discovered to move through the world in an effective way that keeps people safe and happy and thriving is through using the ability to reason and the ability to use the scientific method and to test and hypothesize and prove and disprove ideas, right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So the reason that we talk about, well, that's not testable, that's not provable, therefore you shouldn't believe it, is from that practical standpoint of if you believe that your prayer is really going to help somebody who is homeless, right? Then you're not going to actually go out there and help the homeless person, and the homeless person is still going to suffer. Right? So believing in the supernatural to the extent that it affects how you're interacting with the world and impacting the way you're affecting that world, that's where we have a problem. I'd be happy to sit around all day and hypothesize about what could or could not be out there in the world that we don't know yet. And I'm well aware that we don't know a lot. So I think we're on the same page there, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I certainly wouldn't take it as a reason to sit back and say, it doesn't matter or whatever or something like that.
And the same would go true with
and even though your, for instance, was filled with a little bit of assumption, that's fine. I mean, yeah, maybe they sit there and talk about it, and they do go out and take care of the homeless directly, but who knows? But anyway, yeah, I understand your point.
Right.
And that makes sense.
And it doesn't just apply to prayer.
Right,
it also
exactly.
applies to psychics and, quote, I'm doing air quotes for the audio folks.
Quote,
unquote, mediums, where they claim to get in touch with dead relatives and they bilk you for those dollars. And that's for people who...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's bad stuff involved in that, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so teaching people how...
And there's reason to be aware of that. And because of your audience, bringing that kind of stuff up makes sense.
Yeah.
And, you might say I'm a humanist, too. I mean, I care about the people, and I really want everybody to be helped.
Chris,
for us to be better. Anyway. Yes, sir. Eric, what do you got?
All of that falls under the paranormal. And so what we're saying is it's dangerous to think that there is a paranormal out there when you don't use your critical thinking skills, when they're not testable.
When you don't use your what?
Your critical thinking skills. And when it's not testable, it's dangerous to think that there's paranormal in some cases. In most, I'd say even most cases.
I think in general, you don't believe
what you're saying
in things.
Doesn't apply to me.
Well, okay, so why are you calling?
Yeah.
Not that this wasn't a fun conversation, but I think we agree that we don't know everything and that we shouldn't be encouraging people to pursue paranormal or spiritual options when actual testable options are available, right?
Maybe, yeah. Well, whatever. You're the one that knows what your deal is and who you serve most and how you can serve them best. I'm bringing up another viewpoint. It's my viewpoint. I don't feel danger in considering that paranormal things might be happening, being something that's going to carry me away off into who knows what land and be all screwed up in the mind or something. I'm not sure if I'm paraphrasing what you're saying and translating it right into regular English, but.
And I also understand that you don't feel that way, but when I was a kid, I read this series of books that were based on, written by a Christian author. It scared the fuck out of me because it talked about this invisible world that was going on around me, and it involved angels and involved demons.
Is this Frank Peretti?
Oh my God, that guy's... Yes, it did involve Frank Peretti. And it, like I said earlier, it scared the fuck out of me. And that was all paranormal stuff. So I understand that you may not...
But Christian-based again.
Hold on, Chris. Yeah, I understand that you may not feel that it is affecting you in a dangerous way or anything like that. But it does have strong repercussions for folks who think that the paranormal is real. So I would caution you... to extend your beliefs onto others, because like what V was trying to do at the beginning, come to a agreeable definition, a definition the two of you can agree on. And everything that we had talked about, prayer, angels and demons, and psychics and mediums, those are all considered under paranormal and within the definition that we had agreed on at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I say we agree on 90%. I think that probably if you're using your belief in, I just don't understand why you would hold out belief in, or the possibility of belief in, something that has not been proven or tested or given any evidence for. If you want to call back with evidence of the paranormal, and we can then discuss that for sure. But I think we're going to move on if there's nothing else.
Yeah. Briefly, just kind of round it up here. I've had experiences, discussing them. I don't know if that's worth it at times, but this is great. I'm happy to explore a little more and talk about this same subject.
Yeah.
And I think we had interacted on it before when whoever was your host at that time. But great. I appreciate the time, and good to talk to you. Nice to meet you, Eric. And
thanks, Chris.
We'll maybe bump heads a little more
Yeah,
another time.
sounds like fun. Thanks for calling.
Call back and talk to the much handsomer Eric.
No. Oh my goodness.
So you read those Peretti books too?
I read those. I read the Cooper Kids adventures.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, lots of weird, like, sacrificing his daughter to dragons type situation. It's great. Yeah, honestly, like, if you call in and you want to argue a point and there is a personal element, like you have had an experience, let's lead with that, because that's interesting. That's what's going to get us compelled to have these arguments. Otherwise, we're just kind of agreeing with each other using different words. And
we can have this discussion at a bar or something like that.
Oh, like, for sure. Philosophically, I love talking about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But on a practical day-to-day level, especially when you're talking about and with people who grew up with magical thinking, that it's not helpful